Paris, 1730. Early morning. It is still dark, in the sense that the sun is only hinting at its existence somewhere behind the tiled roofs of the Latin Quarter. Rue Saint-Honor smells of wood smoke, wet pavement, and something hot, fatty, incredibly simple. Somewhere deep inside one of the narrow houses, a woman cracks an egg against the edge of a copper basin. Then a second one. Then a third one. The red-hot pan is already waiting. The butter is already sizzling. In 40 seconds, everything will be ready. In 40 seconds, she will flip it, with a single flick of the wrist taught to her by her mother, and to her mother by her mother. No recipe. No book. Just the hand, the pan, and the egg. This is an omelet. And you think you know this story. Breakfast. Something quick. A hasty dish prepared when the refrigerator is empty. Nothing special. Nothing worthy of a whole investigation. You are mistaken. The omelet is, likely, the most politically charged dish in the history of European cuisine. Disputes about national identity unfolded around it. Because of it, the French quarreled with the Persians, the French with the Spaniards, and the French with themselves, which, however, is entirely normal for the French. It was banned. It was praised to the skies. It was used as a metaphor for revolution, as an instrument of class politics, and as an excuse to humiliate a neighboring country. Behind it stands the history of the egg, the most ancient product on earth, and the history of a person who once decided that an egg could be prepared differently than it had been prepared for 1,000 years before him. Let us start with a legend. And there are several here, and all of them are good. The most famous one states, somewhere around 1762, Napoleon Bonaparte, then still just a young officer, who had not yet become either consul or emperor, stopped for the night in a small village in Provence. The landlady of the inn prepared an omelet for him, one such that Napoleon supposedly ordered all the eggs in the village to be gathered and his entire army fed with this dish the next morning. From here, supposedly, comes the tradition of the huge Easter omelet in the town of Béziers. Every year they prepare an omelet from 15,000 eggs right on the main square. 15,000. One dish. Once a year. Historians will tell you that this is a legend. There are no documentary confirmations, the chronology is limping, and Napoleon was in a completely different place at the required time. But here is what is interesting. The tradition exists. Béziers indeed prepares this colossal omelet every year starting from 1973, when local enthusiasts decided to revive it and even founded the Knightly Brotherhood of the Giant Omelette, with a charter, regalia, and solemn ceremonies. Officially. Serious faces. Medals on their chests. 15,000 eggs. There might be no fact in the legend, but there is truth in it about what this town feels toward this dish. Now, the real story. And it begins not in France. It begins significantly earlier and significantly further east. Egg foam, whipped and baked, a dish that existed in various forms in Persian cuisine several centuries before anyone in France thought to write down a recipe. Cuckoo, a Persian dish of whipped eggs with herbs, baked like a flatbread, in one form or another has been present in Iranian cookery since the Sasanian era, that is, roughly from the 3rd century AD. Arab culinary treatises of the 10th and 11th centuries, in particular, Kitab al-Tabiq by Muhammad ibn al-Hasan al-Baghdadi, contain recipes for dishes of whipped and fried eggs with the addition of herbs and spices. This is not quite what we call an omelet today, but this is the ancestor. The genetics of the dish can be traced quite clearly. In medieval Europe, egg dishes also existed, but they had a completely different status. Eggs were the food of the poor. Fast. Cheap. Without ceremony. Meat. That is what graced the table of the rich. Eggs. What one eats when there is no meat. This hierarchy held for centuries, and it is precisely what explains why the omelet remained in the shade for so long. The dish was considered too simple to write down, too mundane to be proud of. Someone broke this. The first precise written mention of something resembling an omelet in European cuisine, the French cookery treatise Le Viandier by Guillaume Tirel, known as Taillevent, court chef to French kings. Approximately 1380. Taillevent describes the dish à la mealie, whipped eggs fried in lard. No refinement. No technique. just eggs on fat. But the word is already there, and it is present in court cuisine, which in itself is an event. The etymology of the word omelet is a separate detective investigation, and linguists have still not agreed definitively. The most convincing version. From the old French alamel, a blade, a thin strip of metal. The shape of the dish resembled a blade, a thin flat surface. Others derive the word from oeuf, egg, through diminutive suffixes. Still others point to the Latin root lamella, a thin plate. The word changed form. Alamele, amelet, omelette, omelet. By the 17th century, the spelling had stabilized. The dish received a name. And a name that is already in official existence. But here is what was happening in parallel, and here is what truly changes the whole picture. In Spain, or more precisely, in Navarre and Aragon, at the very same time, something completely different existed. Tortilla española. A dense, thick egg pie with potatoes, cooked slowly, flipped whole, and served as an independent dish. No hints of French subtlety. No tenderness. Density, heartiness, peasant thoroughness. Spaniards to this day are convinced that their version is the correct one, while the French omelet is just scrambled eggs that someone forgot to finish cooking. The French, in turn, are convinced that the Spanish tortilla is an omelet that lacked refinement. This dispute has not subsided since the 17th century. It is very much alive today. Google omelet versus tortilla, and you will find articles with such an amount of passion as if it were a territorial conflict. In a sense, it is. Now, a dark page. And it is here, as always. An egg seems like an innocent product. A hen laid it. A human took it. But the history of industrial egg production is a story in which a simple dish cost a colossal price. In the 18th and 19th centuries, when the omelet was becoming increasingly popular in European cities, the demand for eggs began to grow at a terrifying rate. In France, poultry farming turned into an industry. Peasant farms enlarged, conditions for keeping poultry tightened in pursuit of volumes. And in the colonies, primarily in French West Africa and in Indochina, local food products, including eggs, were not infrequently requisitioned for the needs of the colonial administration and army. This is not a terrible secret, it is simply part of the picture. The food eaten in Parisian cafes was built into the same system as sugar, cotton, and coffee. The threads stretched far. They always stretch far. But let us return to Paris, to the 18th century, because right here something completely special happens. Cafes open, then restaurants. The very word restaurant appeared in Paris in 1765, when a certain Mathurin Rose de Chantoiseau opened an establishment on Rue Poulies serving restaurants, restorative broths. A few years later, the concept expanded. A guest could arrive, sit at an individual table, order what they wanted, and pay for what they ate. A revolutionary idea. Before this, in taverns, food was served to everyone at the same time and the same for everyone. And right here in this new reality, Restaurant France, the omelet became something incredible. Because the omelet demanded mastery. Not complex, long, multi-stage mastery, no. But an instantaneous, precise, physically perfect mastery. A cook who knew how to make an omelet correctly was a master. A cook who made it incorrectly lost their reputation. Restaurant culture turned a simple egg dish into an indicator of professionalism. If you want to understand the caliber of a chef, order an omelet from him, they used to say then. They say it even now. I like this detail. There is something very honest in it. Antoine Beauvilliers, one of the first great French restaurateurs, who opened La Grande Taverne de Londres on Rue de Richelieu in 1782, an establishment that contemporaries called the first real restaurant in the modern sense, included the omelet on the menu as an individual item. Not a side dish, not an appetizer, not a forced substitution. An independent dish. With a price. With dignity. Then came the revolution. 1789. And the omelet suddenly turned out to be political. There is no ban on the product itself here. That is an important caveat. But there is something more interesting. In the rhetoric of the revolutionary years, the egg and the omelet became a metaphor for the destruction of the old order. You cannot make an omelet without breaking eggs. This phrase appeared precisely then. The exact date of its first usage is disputed by historians, but the context is obvious. The Jacobins and their sympathizers used it to justify the terror. A grand idea demands sacrifices. Transformation demands destruction. You want a new world? Break the eggs. The dish became a language. The omelet entered political discourse, and since then has never truly left it. In the 19th century, the great Auguste Escoffier, the man who systematized French haute cuisine and essentially created the modern professional restaurant in its current form, dedicated several pages to the omelet in his monumental guide Culinary of 1903. Escoffier insisted, "A correct omelet must be tender, pale on the outside, creamy on the inside, almost runny at its very heart. No golden crust. No overcooking. That is a crime against the egg," he expressed roughly in such terms. A French omelet, according to Escoffier, must roll into the shape of a torpedo, not crack, not split open, and preserve inside a living, hot tenderness. On the other side of the English Channel, they would have argued with him. In Britain, the omelet was traditionally prepared denser, more golden, browned on both sides. Simple, honest, without French frills. Different countries. Different temperaments. One egg, and completely different ideas about what to do with it. In the 20th century, the battle for the correct omelet acquired an unexpected dimension. In 1994, American chef Anthony Bourdain, then still a little-known cook at the New York restaurant Les Halles, several years before he became a global star, wrote an essay claiming, "The best way to test a candidate for a cook position is to ask them to prepare an omelet. Not because it is difficult, but because it exposes everything. Hand speed, sense of temperature, the ability not to fuss, the capacity to trust the process." Bourdain repeated this idea in various interviews over the course of 20 years. It became a culinary axiom. The omelet as a test of professionalism. The omelet as a mirror. And now let us talk about science. Because what happens to an egg in a red-hot pan is one of the most elegant chemical reactions in cooking. And people were doing it right for thousands of years without knowing a single word of what I am about to say. An egg is largely water and protein. Two primary proteins. Ovalbumin and conalbumin in the egg white, and a whole cocktail in the yolk. Vitellin, lysozyme, phosphatin. When heated, these protein molecules begin to unfold, to denature, and bind with one another into a new network. It is precisely this network that transforms liquid into solid, or, at the right temperature and time, into something between liquid and solid, into that very creamy, still living state that Escoffier called ideal. Critical temperature, that is the key. Ovalbumin begins to denature at 80 degrees Celsius. The yolk, at 65 to 70. This means, if you prepare an omelet over too high a heat, you cross the point of no return too quickly, the protein dries out, becomes tough, rubbery. If you cook slowly, over medium heat, controlling the process second by second, you manage to catch the moment when the network has formed, but has not yet tightened completely. Moisture remains inside the omelet. Tenderness remains. Fat, butter, or vegetable oil serves a dual function. Firstly, it creates a barrier between the egg and the metal of the pan, slowing down the heating and buying you time. Secondly, fat molecules literally embed themselves into the protein network, breaking it at key points, making the texture softer. This is called fat as a plasticizer. Add a little more butter, and the omelet will become more tender. Add cream, and you enhance the effect even further. That is precisely why French chefs sometimes add a spoonful of sour cream or crème fraîche to the egg mixture, not for the sake of taste, but for the sake of texture. Whisking is also no coincidence. When you whisk eggs before cooking, you do several things simultaneously. Break down the structure of the yolk and white, mix them, saturate the mixture with air, and create a more uniform distribution of proteins. This means that denaturation will proceed evenly. The omelet will set everywhere at the same time, rather than in patches. An evenly whisked omelet is an evenly cooked omelet. Simple physics. Salt added to the eggs before frying accelerates protein denaturation. This means a salted omelet will set slightly faster than an unsalted one. Some chefs salt immediately before serving for this very reason, to preserve maximum softness. Others salt in advance, taking this fact into account and simply turning down the heat slightly. There is no single rule. There is physics and your decision on what to do with it. Flipping is a science of its own. The flick of the wrist with which a French chef flips an omelet is neither a show nor tradition for tradition's sake. It is a way to turn the dish without pressure, without disrupting the structure. A spatula presses on the surface and can break a protein network that has not yet fully formed. The flick of the wrist, a toss forward and up, allows the omelet to flip in the air through its own inertia. Not a single molecule harmed. Physics at the service of taste. This is precisely what thousands of chefs spent years learning. The flick of the wrist. Not because it is beautiful, although it is beautiful, but because it works. The omelet is not food for the poor. It was never food for the poor, or rather, it was food for everyone, which is completely different. The omelet is a dish that does not allow incompetence to be hidden. Expensive meat can be disguised with a sauce. A complex cake, with decorations. An omelet, no? It is either right or it is not. It is either tender or rubbery. Either the shape holds, or everything falls apart. Nowhere to hide. Perhaps that is precisely why it survived everything. Bans, revolutions, culinary trends, the appearance of cholesterol-free eggs, and vegan substitutes. The omelet remains. Béziers prepares its 15,000 eggs every year. Parisian chefs still test candidates with this exam. And somewhere in Iran, a woman puts cuckoo with herbs into a pan, and it is the same gesture as 3,000 years ago. The shape is slightly different. The egg, the very same. To understand a culture, look at what it considers simple. Not at the festive table, not at palace feasts, but at what is cooked in the morning, on a weekday, without guests, without ceremonies. The omelet is precisely such a dish. And in it lies the entire history of humanity's relationship with food, with labor, with matter, and with what it means to do something right. Not pompously. Not complexly. Rightly. 40 seconds. One flick of the wrist. And that is all. This was another dossier of the Culinary Archive. If you want the stories to continue, subscribe to the channel. Every week we see you in the archive.